Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Mindy here. I hope it's been an amazing weekend for you and you're off to the start of a phenomenal week. So as usual, I've been playing with a ton of samples lately, and today I wanted to talk about some fragrances that have been recently released or they're very commonly talked about in the perfume community. I wanted to share my thoughts with you. Just a spoiler alert, two of these are just okay. I'm not super crazy about them, and one of them is a big love. And just a heads up, we just recently got back from vacation. I'm just now getting back into the swing of things. I'm feeling a little disheveled, maybe a little casual today. Our trip back was a little bit dicey, but we made it. I'm happy to be here and I cannot wait to talk about fragrance today. So the first fragrance that I have here today is Arabian's Tonka by Montale. And I've heard a couple people talk about this, and this is a very loved fragrance. Immediately what came to mind, and I've heard other people mention as well, is that this smells very similar to some other fragrances I'm familiar with. Specifically, what came to mind was Roses Vanille by Mancera, Intense Cafe by Montal, as well as Gentle Fluidity Gold by Maison Francis Kurkdjian. They all kind of have a similar vibe to me. Of all of those fragrances I've mentioned though, this one to me seems to have the most character and the most depth. Now, in full transparency, I haven't done a side-by-side comparison of Arabian's Tonka with some of the other fragrances I've mentioned, so I'm not overly familiar with how they compare with one another. This just simply brought those to mind and had a similar scent profile to my nose as Roses Vanille, Intense Cafe, and Gentle Fluidity Gold. Now, this one is quite strong. And while I do like the scent, I think it's pretty, it's deep, it's alluring, and I think a lot of people would find this to be intoxicating. To my nose, the rose is quite strong. It seems like the saffron is a little overpowering to me, and I'm not sure I'm crazy about the oud in this fragrance. Again, I do like this, but I'm not sure it's one that I would be reaching for. It doesn't give me enough sweetness or gourmand quality that I like. This just isn't really in the vein of fragrances that I choose and like to reach for. But it is a very pretty scent for somebody who adores rose, somebody who likes oud. I think this is a very nice fragrance to check out. I think a lot of people would like this one. Now, I find this to be really nice. I do think for people that are much more familiar with Roses Vanille, Intense Cafe, or Gentle Fluidity Gold, they may be able to easily distinguish the difference between Arabian's Tonka and those other fragrances. To my nose, because this isn't a fragrance profile that I really love, that I really like to wear, I haven't played with them enough to really differentiate between the several fragrances I've tried. But what I will say is other people seem to have a similar experience to me where this does smell like some of those others mentioned. And I do think a lot of people would find this to be redundant in a collection if you've already had some of those others. Now, that being said, if you really love this scent profile, this one may smell different to you. You may be able to pick up nuances that are different. For me, it's too close. I will not be adding Arabian's Tonka to my collection, but I do think this is one that could grow on me over time. Again, that is Arabian's Tonka by Montal. Now, next up is BDK Velvet Tonka. And to be honest, I've only played with BDK a little bit. I've tried Pas Ce Soir, I've tried Rouge Smoking, I've also played with one other, Gris Charnel, and I liked them, but I'm not sure I found a total love in any of the BDK fragrances just yet. That seems to be a similar experience to what I've had across niche fragrances as a whole. I don't want to generalize and say that I don't love all niche fragrances, but I'm still really trying to figure out what niche fragrances I do love versus those that I'm not crazy about. There's just this vast array of niche fragrances available, and I have liked quite a few, but I don't love them all, and I'm really trying to go through and sample those so that I'm not buying very expensive bottles of fragrances and them not working out. I've already kind of been there, done that with designer. I've had quite a few fails. I've had a lot that I really love, but niche is just a little bit more risky. And so with BDK, I've only sampled a little bit, and I only have a sample of BDK Velvet Tonka, and I'll share my thoughts with you. Now, this one has a notes breakdown that I thought I would really enjoy. It has almond, orange, blossom, and I do tend to like nuttiness in my fragrances. There is rose oil and tobacco in the mid, Love tobacco in fragrances as well. And then there's tonka bean, amberwood, bourbon vanilla, and amorous at the base. And so all of these notes seem to be something that I would really truly enjoy. But when I smell this, I really get a very vintagey vibe from it. I do find this to be quite smooth. I find Velvet Tonka to have a really nice tobacco accord in it that I enjoy. But overall, I do think this one makes me think of kind of an older lounge, like a bar, or an older hotel that maybe has older furniture, where there's been tobacco or smoke. Just really brings back maybe like a sort of celebratory party type atmosphere in a vintagey environment. And while I do find it to be nice, it's not a fragrance that I'm super crazy about. I do think the term velvet in the nomenclature for this fragrance makes total sense. There's something about the word velvet that really makes sense with this fragrance. Like I said, it's smooth, it has sort of a vintagey feel, and sometimes I think about the fabric velvet being a little bit vintagey. And it is a nice fragrance, but not really one I'd be interested in bringing into my collection. What I find difficult about this one too really is the fact that I love tonka beans. So Velvet Tonka, I thought this would be a shoo-in. This would definitely be a fragrance that I love. So it not being what I expected was a little bit difficult because I really thought I would adore this fragrance. For me, there's a little bit of soapiness in it, just lingering there in the background, and it doesn't really play well to my nose with some of the other notes that are in this fragrance. Velvet Tonka, unfortunately, is going to be a hard pass for me. This is not feminine enough for me. While most people really seem to think that this was a feminine fragrance, to my nose it leans more unisex, maybe even slightly more masculine. For me, it's not overly masculine, but it's really kind of laying on that line of unisex, maybe leaning slightly more masculine to my nose. I don't find a lot of feminine qualities in this fragrance, and while I don't have to have that in my fragrances, I do like a lot of unisex fragrances. There's something missing in this one that makes it just not work out for me. I do think for somebody who likes a lot of almond and sweetness, some amber and vanilla in their fragrances mixed in with the tobacco, I think this would be worth a shot for you to try, but I do not recommend blind buying this one. Definitely recommend getting your nose on this one before you make a full bottle purchase. Again, that is Velvet Tonka by BDK. The next fragrance that I have here is one that was recommended by several subscribers. They must know what I like, and that is Tribeca by Bond No. 9. Now, I will say this is an absolute love. I adore this fragrance. I've only played around with it for a couple days, but there is no question that I am really, really enjoying this one. Now, the notes in this fragrance are cacao and hazelnut, so definitely you get a little bit of gourmand notes in this fragrance, but it doesn't feel overly gourmand to my nose. In the mid is jasmine sambac and cedar, and then at the base is ambroxan, caramel, and moss. Now, some people compare Tribeca to Baccarat Rouge 540, to Angel Au Croisier, to Thank You Next by Ariana Grande, and I didn't get any of those associations. To my nose, this is sexy, it's pretty, it's alluring, it's slightly gourmand, but not overly so. The opening to me was a little bit white floral heavy, so I almost thought I was smelling tuberose, which I don't think is in this fragrance. It's just jasmine sambac in terms of the floral notes, but it did feel very heavy on the florals to me at first spray. So I was a little apprehensive that I may not like this one, but as it warms and settles to the skin, I find this to be gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning. And while I don't feel like it compares to some of those other fragrances that people associate with this one, and everyone's different, so we all have different scent interpretations, for me it reminds me more so of The Only One Intense by Dolce & Gabbana. Now, it does not smell like The Only One Intense by Dolce & Gabbana, but sort of how that fragrance has the white floral aspect, the coconut aspect, slightly gourmand quality to it, but it's also floral. I get a little bit of that here. So for me, the blend of the gourmand notes, the cacao, the hazelnut, the caramel, they come together in a way that kind of tricks my mind into thinking it's gourmand, but it's balanced out by the ambroxan, the jasmine sambac, the cedar, the moss. It really gives this a contrast. It keeps it from going too deep into that gourmand realm, but it gives me enough of what I'm craving out of a fragrance like this. I don't explicitly get caramel and cacao here unless I really press my nose close and I can pick up on it. But for me, it's just blended so beautifully that all of those notes come together in a way that just makes this creamy, nutty, woody, warm, delicious, cozy scent. I find this one to be absolutely beautiful. For me, it is very much on the same level as the only one, Intense. That's white floral, but it's also a little bit gourmand. Love that fragrance. I love this one too. I'm curious from you guys. I really did have a heck of a time getting a sample for this one because samples seem to be quite pricey for this, and this is a very high price fragrance. The Bond No. 9 fragrance for Tribeca ranges from $300 to $405, and while I do really like this one, I think I'd say it's a love. I'm not sure I want to spend $300 or $400 on this particular fragrance. So I am curious from you guys, how were you able to get this fragrance in your possession? Did you pay full price and just say, you know, it's that good? Or were you able to get it at a discount? Please let me know because I'm interested to hear from you guys how you pulled this into your collection. Again, I think Tribeca by Bond No. 9 is amazing. I think it's a gorgeous fragrance. It's delicious, it's nutty, it's creamy. It's everything that I like in a white floral fragrance. I think a lot of people would really enjoy this one if they can get their hands on it. Again, let me know how you were able to get a hold of this. I want this, I want it badly, but I don't want to pay that price point. So any thoughts, any suggestions, tips you guys have, please let me know. Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video on popular, commonly talked about fragrances that I've been playing with a little bit. If you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. As always, I truly appreciate you. I thank you guys so much for watching and for all of the engagement in the comments. I hope you have a lot to be grateful and thankful for. And until next time, I'll see you soon.